Welcome class. This course is SOC 125, African Peoples and Culture. The course is all about you understanding the vast cultural heritage of the of the African peoples, relating to their environments and even their material culture. Definition. In Africa, there are different natural resources which includes air, water, light, sunshine, forests. Africa is the world's second largest continent and second populous continent after Asia. It covers 6% of the Earth's total surface area, 2.40% of the total land area, and it has more than 1 billion people as at 2009. It is surrounded by the Mediterranean Sea to the north, both to the Suez Canal and Red Sea along the Sinai Peninsula to the northeast, Indian Ocean to the southeast, Atlantic Ocean to the west. The continent, Africa, as at it today, has 55 sovereign states, including Madagascar and various islands. Africa, particularly East Africa, is widely regarded within scientific community to be the origin of humans, as evidenced by the discovery of early hominids and their ancestors, and other similar recent ones dated to around 2,200,000 years. Africa is blessed with different natural resources like rivers such as the Niger, Benue, Orange, Congo, as well as lakes such as Lake Victoria, Lake Rudolph, Lake Chad, and Lake Turkana. It is also blessed with mountains around many parts of Africa, and these include the Kenya Mountain, Cameroonian Mountain, Kilimanjaro Mountain, Fontajalon Island, among others. Africa is the most tropic continent in the world, especially countries that are close to the equator. The climate of Africa reflects in natural environments high forests in the equator, abundant sand in the desert, mild vegetation in the savanna, and thick vegetation in the rainforest. This further from the equator, the higher the temperature and the lesser the rainfall. In this course, we are looking at some of the approaches for us to understand the African peoples and culture. For us to understand African people and their cultures, there are approaches which include archaeological source. Archaeological information gives us one of the most reliable data to suggest that this have been long, so it has been long since people started sojourning in the different parts of the African continent. Archaeological excavation from various parts of the continent revealed for more than 1,000 years different groups of people who are horticulturists, pastoralists, agriculturists, who have occupied and carried out some of their economic activities. Knowledge of crop cultivation and animal husbandry was discovered in a rock shelter in Mejiro in northeastern Nigeria. Secondly, we have physical anthropological source. One of the most reliable sources for studying the African people, especially as regards to their origin, is the physical anthropological information. Through many of the physical anthropological data that were carried out by paleoanthropologists, earliest fossils of human settlements were discovered in parts of eastern and southern Africa by L.S.B. Leakey and his wife Mary Leakey. A major area that we had abundant physical anthropological data came from the Olduvai Gorge and Lake Turkana. The third is a linguistic source. Linguistic evidence gives a clear picture of the social groupings of the African people. It shows African people have been classified into major proto-language families such as the Nilo-Sahara, Niger-Colophania, Afro-Asiatic, and Croatian. Then fourth, we have the oral traditions. This approach has been significantly adopted to retrieve and document the origin, mythologies, customs, traditions, belief system of the African people by oral historians. The fifth is the written records. These are mainly ethnographic accounts of the historical, economic, social, political, and religious lives of the African people. There have been documented books, journals, newsletters, monographs, which scholars have made use of and are still writing in the field of anthropology, history, sociology, literature, and philosophy. Then we then have sources of early human origin in Africa. Anthropological studies of human origin in Africa have shed more light on the early human origin in the African continent. Africa can be described as the cradle of mankind, that is the birthplace of humans. The discipline of anthropology since the 20th century has thrown more light about the evidence of early humans. From paleoanthropological evidence in different parts of Eastern Africa and Southern Africa, there have been fossils of early humans. The second is paleoanthropological data in parts of paleoanthropological data in parts of the Olduvai Gorge in Tanzania, Lake Turkana, among others, and even the Border Cave, all reveal fragmentary fossils of Homo erectus population in Africa. For example, Ember and Ember 1996 admitted that the oldest known fossil classified as Homo sapien was in Africa. According to Contact 2008, fossil remains dating to perhaps 150,000 years were believed to be those of early modern humans that originated in Africa. Secondly, we have archaeological data have been able to give a much clearer and detailed picture of the origin of early humans in Africa. Archaeological data reveal vivid evidence of human earliest origin in Africa. There are various archaeological data that have been accumulating to support Africa origin of modern humans, especially in South Africa around the Blombos Cave. These have yielded evidence that indicates early human origin. In different parts of Eastern and Southern Africa, there were discoveries of early human technological behavior, that is, the design of tools for hunting animals. For example, in Olduvai Gorge, stone artifacts were made by humans that include choppers and scrapers. Artistic evidence also is one area that we have been able to shed more light on early human origin in the continent of Africa. Artistic evidence associated with origin of modern humans in Africa. This came in form of objects of paintings in many parts of Africa that depicts forms of animals, weapons in form of spears, arrows, and bows. They rest on bare walls and caves, while some are in naturalistic forms. Paintings, these include paintings on slabs of stones excavated in Southern Africa. These paintings in many parts of Africa date back to more than 28,000 years. Understanding the nature and richness of African cultures and their heritage and its heritage. Africa has a very rich heritage of what past generations of African peoples thought, did, experience, and passed into their children. The heritage of African peoples formed a long-time link between the forebearers and their descendants, who now feel proud of it. A study of the rich heritage of Africans enables us to understand something that is unique of the African people who lived not only in recent past, but several hundreds or thousands of years ago. The following are the richness of African cultures and their heritage as explained in this topic. The first is physical anthropological evidence. Contrary to what early European scholars have said about the African culture or society, that it is a dark continent, Africa has no history. From physical anthropological evidence, it shows that humans have been living in the continent and have been carrying out their economic, social, and other religious activities before this time or this millennium. Second, archaeological evidence. Africa had a prehistory about its cultures and its people. A lot of activities, especially economic activities, have been taking place in the African continent for thousands of years, and these include migrations, hunting and gathering, fishing, domestication of animals, horticulture, wars, farming, mining activities, among others. The third is the existence of flourishing political kingdoms and empires. Before now, there have been great civilization in Africa, and notable among them are the Egyptian civilization in Africa, and we also have other civilizations such as the Ghana Empire, Songhai Empire, Mali Empire, Buganda Empire, among others. They also have the African proverbs, myths, and legends. These are aspects of African heritage. All African communities have their own heritage in forms of myths, riddles, stories, legends, proverbs, and these have been handed down orally from generation to generation, and they serve the purpose of moral instructions, entertainments, and for wisdom accumulation. The next topic we're looking at in this course is the racial classification of African peoples. There are many concepts about the racial classification of the African continent. Generally, scholars have agreed that the classification of African peoples can be classified into two extremes. We have the phenotypic appearances. This is described as the outward appearance of humans, that is the recognition or the identification base of individuals based on color of the skin, height, shape of nose, shape of head, and hair texture. The second is the genotypic appearance. This is the inward traits of humans based on genetic characteristics like blood group A, B, or O, and genotype AA, AS, or SS. However, some scholars have agreed that ecology and diet equally determines the physical features of humans even in the African continent. A broader understanding and identification of the races in Africa can be highlighted this as follows. First, we have the Bushmanoid. This group are found in parts of southern Africa, especially in parts of South Africa and even the present Zimbabwe. They are not large in size as compared to the Negroids population. The second racial grouping in Africa are the Pygmoids. The Pygmoids are found in Central Africa around the Ituri forests of the Congo Basin in present-day Congo Democratic Republic. The third, we have the Negroid. The Negroids are one of the largest population of Africans south of the Sahara. They are mainly found in the Guinea coast and parts of the western and eastern Sudan. The fourth is the Caucasoids. This racial group are more closely related to the Europeans, that lived in the Mediterranean, that is the Mediterranean race, that is the white race. They are found among the Berbers of North Africa in present-day Algeria, Morocco, Tunisia, Libya, as well as among the Kushites of Ethiopia and upland Somalia. The Mongoloids. These racial groups are relatively few in population. They have survived only in the present-day Madagascar island, where they have mixed up with the Negroid race. We have the ethno-linguistic classification of African peoples. Language is an aspect of culture because it is the medium through which we transmit our culture, and it also depicts the variety of human social groupings. It has constituted a separate course of study even in Africa called linguistics. Essentially, language is the main means of communication, either verbally or non-verbally. Language is associated with the use of symbols. For example, Joseph Greenberg, a notable American anthropological linguist, carried out an extensive study of the language groupings in Africa. From his study, he came out with his findings that the African language group can be qualified into the following. First, we have the Niger Codophenia. This language group consists of two broad variants. We have the Niger Congo and the Codophenia. The Niger Congo is further subdivided into 6 variants. The West Atlantic, which consists of Fulani and Malinke, or Fulani or the Fulfulde language. The second one is the Mande. They are mainly found in Sierra Leone and Liberia, while the Voltaic consists of the Ga, Shanti and Tiv language. The Kwa group of languages are mainly associated with most Nigerian languages such as Igbo, Yoruba, Idoma, Ijaw, among others. We then have the Benue Congo. The Benue Congo are also found among some of those languages in the northeastern part of Nigeria, while we have the Adamawa Eastern. The languages under West Atlantic includes Wolof in Senegal, Bambara in Burkina Faso. The Voltaic languages include more from Mosi Kingdom and Dogo and Donga. Other language groupings we have the Afro-Asiatic. These are usually found in northern parts of Africa. Then we also have the Croatian language that consists of the Bantu group of languages. African family system. In this course, the African family system, we're looking at how the African family has changed in recent time. The African family system has not been static. It has undergone certain changes. Before the advent of modernization, marriage was polygynous in African society. Then, with agriculture as a means of livelihood, the family needed a larger population. So people needed more hands for agricultural activities, which led to the marriage of more wives, known as polygyny. And in the African family, we have other families such as the nuclear and the extended family, but the extended family is the most widely popular family system within the African continent. Some of the notable changes that have taken place within the African family system has to do with, one, the age at which women marry has changed. There have been changes in the African marriage system with regards to the age at which girls marry. This trend is for women to marry in much later, in their 20s and 30s. Some of the reasons for this late marriage of women has been as a result of the advent of modern Western education. Before now, the young girls in their first menses, they will be in their parents' house, but their second menses, they are expected to be in their husband's house. But with education now, most parents encourage their daughters to go to school to the extent of even acquiring even university education. So with that, most young girls now marry very late in their 20s and 30s, unlike before when they marry at 14, 15, or even at most 18 years. We also have the rules of residence in marriage has also changed. The rules of residence for young couples have changed from patrilocal marital residence to neolocal residence. Neolocal residence indicates that the husband, after marrying his wife, is expected to go and live in a neutral environment that is quite distinct from both his family of orientation and his own wife family of orientation. Usually, such local residents occur in urban areas such as Lagos, Ibadan, Kaduna, among other cities in Nigeria or other African countries. The third is premarital sexual initiation has also changed. Before now, premarital sexual prohibition was strong and strictly adhered to by young people, especially the girls. But for now, premarital sexual initiation has been relaxed and it has become much more flexible. These days, young people marry without performing the so-called coming out ceremony of ascertaining whether a girl is a virgin or not. So it has changed. There has been a lot of flexibility. Girls can discuss about their sexual life even with their parents, and the parents don't frown at it. The fourth is the property inheritance of women has also changed. In pre-colonial times or years, women had no right to inherit their father's property. But in recent years or decades, this custom has been relaxed and more women now inherit properties from their fathers, especially those that are educated, that have Western orientation. The next is parent-children relationship. This has also changed from autocratic to democratic in outlook in modern African societies. Autocratic in the sense that before now, in pre-colonial times, the relationship between parents and children was more autocratic. That is, parents instill strict discipline on their children, and children also have strong reverence and even fear for their parents. They hardly openly discuss things with their parents. But now, the relationship has become much more relaxed, much more even flexible and democratic in outlook, that children these recent decades have the privilege, without fear or favor, to discuss even sexual experience with their parents, telling them about their boyfriend or even their girlfriend or whatever they have experienced in school. They even ask them questions on issues relating to challenges in life, among others. These days, children even advise their parents on what to do, maybe learn to buy, what kind of car they want their parents to buy, and these have given room for more democratic interaction between parents and their children. There has also been change in preference from extended family to nuclear family. In recent time, if you come to urban areas in many African societies, the family type that people prefer has changed from the extended family to the nuclear family. The nuclear family has become much more popular now because most people live in urban areas and they want a fewer family size, a smaller family size, and everybody is looking at the issue of better standard of living. Also, people are reducing young people now in the urban areas are shying away from the burden of assisting even extended family members or even parents themselves. Now we'll look at the African social system and regulation in this course. Incest regulation. African social system forbids people from carrying out sexual activities within a closed social group, especially family unit. This is born out of the belief that uncontrolled sex between kin group members is potentially dangerous and destructive. Most African societies provide ways of regulating sexual relation among members of the kin group. A notable society that practices this are the Nyakosas of Malawi. The Nyakosas of Malawi frown at such close sexual relationship. Other societies that also frown at it, even within the Nigeria society, we have the Jaws, the Isokos, and even the Urhobos. The most universal acknowledged sexual regulation is the incest regulation. That is, the prohibition of sexual intercourse between mother and son, father and daughter, and brothers and sisters. Virtually all African societies prohibit or frown against either sexual intercourse or marriage between such categories of persons. For instance, if a mother has sex with her son and she becomes pregnant, she will occupy dual status, that is that of a mother and a grandmother, which is very irregular and unacceptable in many African societies. Another major social system regulation that we have in this course have to do with the mother-in-law avoidance. This is a social system that prohibits a son-in-law from having a close contact or an intimate relationship with mother-in-law. Some of these restrictions include: he is not allowed to sit on the same mat with the mother-in-law. He is also not allowed to collect something direct from her. For instance, drinking water from her from the same cup, and many more restrictions that prohibit a comfortable relationship between them. This social system varies from society to society, but the Nyakosas of Malawi, according to A.R. Radcliffe Brown, depict this mother-in-law avoidance as one of the social regulations in that society. Patterns of marital residence in African societies. This is another topic that has been treated in this course. The patterns of marital residence in African societies are as follows. We have the patrilocal residence. In most social groups in Africa, some form of conjugal or extended family is acknowledged. Most often, post-marital residential arrangement is generally seen as far from being arbitrary but adaptive in nature. Marriage arrangement permits the man and his wife to live in the husband's family of orientation, that is where the man grew up. Secondly, we have the matrilocal residence. In this situation, the husband after marriage leaves his family of orientation, that is the family where he grew up, and goes to live with his wife in her parents' household. This rule of residence is due to ecological circumstances that favor women economic production. This means that it is prominent in subsistence economic arrangement where women are the point of reference of production. Third, we have the umbilical residence. This rule of residence for the husband and his wife after marriage is made flexible for them to make a choice where they will want to live and bring up their children. It provides opportunity for the husband and wife to make a choice either to live in patrilineal extended family or matrilineal extended family household. We also have fourthly the neolocal residence. After marriage, the husband and his wife establish their family of orientation in a new settlement, preferably an urban area that is independent from family of both parents. This pattern of residence has been encouraged with the emergence of colonialism, industrialization, and modern paid employment in many African societies. We also have the unvocolocal residence. After marriage, the husband and wife goes to live with the husband's mother's brother, that is the maternal uncle. It is most often practiced mainly in societies where descent is recognized through the mother's side, matrilineal society. Notable African societies that practice such unvocolocal residence are the Ashantis of Ghana and the Nyakosas of Malawi. These two societies are matrilineal in their nature. In this course, we are looking at the Fulanis, the pastoral Fulanis of West Africa. The Fulanis are one of the most populous ethnic group in Africa, and they spread all over Africa from Senegal in West Africa to Central Africa Republic, that is in the DR Congo. And they occupy the same region because of their non-sedentary nature that involves the rearing of cattle. In the 1960s, the population of the Fulani in Africa was close to 1 billion, and they are found in the following countries like Senegal, Gambia, Mali, Mauritania, Niger, Nigeria, among others. In Senegal, they are called Fula, while in Chad, they are called Feleta. The Fulani are of the Caucasoid race, and they are of light copper skin with straight, narrow nose, although some of them are a mixture of Caucasoid and Negro complexion. The social organization of the Fulanis. The social organization of the Fulanis are based on the mode is based on their mode of economic system they operate or carried out, which is pastoralism, the rearing and tending of flocks or cattle. Although in recent times, some have become sedentary in their economic activity, that is, they also engage in cultivation of crops like legumes, like maize, among other crops that are cultivated within the Savannah region. The Fulani of West Africa have 3 types of movement that includes the migration drift. This is a type of movement whereby the Fulani herdsman desert an area owing to complete exhaustion or destruction of the water and pasture facilities there. The second, we have migration. This is the movement whereby the Fulani desert a district owing to social conflict with their sedentary neighbors who are farmers without amicable settlement. The Fulani in this circumstance move out regardless of the amount of water and pasture facilities available. The third is the transhuman. This is the seasonal movement of the Fulani from one grazing location to another grazing location due to scarcity of water and pastures within their homestead. In this circumstance, the Fulani nomads travel great distance in search of water and pasture and later return during wet season when the environment becomes favorable. The modes of economic exchange in Africa is another topic that is treated in this course. In all known human societies, including Africa, goods and services are distributed through different means of exchange. And these are reciprocity, exchange, redistribution, and market exchange. The use of any of these systems in a society depends on the level of technology or economic development of the society in question. Reciprocity exchange. This involves the giving and taking of goods without the use of money. It ranges from pure gift giving to equal exchange of commodity or even cheating. Reciprocity is further divided into 3 sections. We have the generalized reciprocity. This form of reciprocity is common in most African societies. It involves a person giving a gift to someone without expecting immediate return, although a person may anticipate a similar gift in return in the future. Generalized reciprocity is one of the most common means of people exchanging goods and services. For instance, during festive season, people, maybe during the Muslim Salah season, people can decide to cook food, give special gifts to their neighbors in return. Their neighbors could even be Christians. Then during Christmas season also, the Christian neighbors will also in return cook food, package drinks, and return. This form of exchange is not based on some form of agreement. It is done voluntarily, and it's not done with the expectation that one will get the same quantity of goods or even the services from his or her neighbor. Balanced reciprocity. This involves a direct exchange of goods and services in which both parties accept an equivalent amount of exchange. It is more explicit and short-term in its expectation of return than generalized reciprocity. We also have negative reciprocity. This involves taking something from an individual, that is a commodity, without the thought of a fair return or bringing it back. Negative reciprocity could also mean getting something for nothing. It can also be described as a form of mind deceitful bargaining, which could be in form of theft or other varieties of stealing or even gambling, 419, burglary, or pickpocketing. The third one is the redistribution. This involves the accumulation of goods at some allocated point or center and their subsequent redistribution. It's mostly practiced in societies with some political hierarchy or centralized political structure, in form of the old ancient Egyptian empire, the Ghana empire, the Songhai empire, and even in contemporary Zulu Kingdom and some parts of the Emirates in northern Nigeria, where usually goods are collected and given to the king, and who later redistribute them to the commoners. Market exchange. Most African societies have markets in their communities, and specific days are located to each market days. The market provides an opportunity for people to interact, to meet new friends, to exchange pleasantries. The market is also an opportunity for people to even have a spouse. They meet new spouse that they later marry in life. The market provides an opportunity for people to learn language, and the market is also an opportunity for people to rest. We are looking at the nature of traditional education in African societies. Education as an institution in African society serves as a means of standardized mode of performing regular activities by individuals or groups. The range of institutions saddled with education are varied. It could be a short initiation ceremony that involves formal lesson, or informal during process of growing up and living with members of the family or kin group. In many African societies, educating the young ones could take the form of storytellings, learning a craft, learning music, performance of rites of passage, among others. The nature of traditional education in African societies are as follows. The process of child training helps to provide diverse sets of values. First, within the family unit, the institution of the family is basic for the education of the young ones in all societies, including even African societies. In patrilineal African society, the father is the center of reference for authority and affection. So young ones learn a lot from their parents, especially the father. The father is a reference point in which people is a reference point for character molding in many African societies. That's where people will say that their parents or their father was a disciplinarian, and he gave them the kind of training they can boast of, and they can even pass on to their children and children's children. The second is mothers and other members of the family equally play pivotal roles in educating the children. The education of the girl child is equally left to the mothers to handle. This is in the aspect of performance of domestic chores. For example, among the Igbos, the Yorubas, and the Idoma society in Nigeria, the girl child learned a lot from the mother. The girl child, once she's just 6 years, she begins to learn how to take care of the home. She's taught how to cook. She's taught how to dress the bed. She's taught how to handle many things, even take care of her younger ones. The third is the role of kinship ties is significant in the education of the young ones in Africa. In many patrilineal societies in Africa, children receive training from both male and female elders that are of the same generation with their parents. Thus, members of the extended family have their role to play in the education and training of the children. In many African societies, there are instances where some children may lose their parents at a very tender age. It is the father or mother's siblings who act as father or mother that train such children. So this kind of training, operates within the kinship group. So the kinship group has a lot of role to play in education of the young ones. The fourth is the role of the age grade. Age grade associations and secret societies play pivotal role also in the education of the young ones in the African society. In many African societies, age grades and secret societies help in the socialization and education of the young ones. These institutions socialize and educate the coming generations. For example, among the Mende of Sierra Leone and Liberia, the Poro and the Poro is for the boys, while the Sunday is for the girls. They form the significant education institution that helps to train and bring up the children. The Poro discipline and train the boys to be strong in the course of them growing up, while the Poro also train the girls in the course of them growing up. The Poro has its own bush in which boys are given marks before they enter the poro, and when they are coming out, they come out stronger and bolder in every of their life endeavors. They are trained to be bold, they are trained to be responsible, the women are trained to be humble in the Sunday secret society among the Sierra Leone, the Mende of Sierra Leone and Liberia. Fifth, in some centralized political societies, such as the old Oyo Empire and even the Benin Kingdom, children are recruited into various guilds or associations and are required to be present during ceremonials and rituals. Through these activities, they gradually understudy and learn about the activities of their seniors. The Benin Society, as I highlighted, is one significant ethnic group in Africa that practice it. The Zulu also have these guilds that train children to be more experienced in carrying out different activities. Lastly, in many African societies, education of young ones come through informal engagements, such as telling moonlight stories, telling of proverbs, wise sayings, giving instructions to children, and also other entertainments. So with this, I hope that students will are more exposed to the African peoples and their culture. And with this lecture also, you are advised that you get more relevant texts that will help you to expand your horizon as regards to the African peoples and culture. Thank you very much.